překlad z angličtiny do češtiny, tak je pro vás k dispozici celou dobu bude celá ta masterclass tlumočená, takže si můžete ještě sem vyzvednout sluchátka. Good evening, welcome to Masterclass. Chris Landreth, Oscar-awarded filmmaker, and this year also one of jurors here. And if needed, you can use Czech translation, complete translation, my Czech translation. So enjoy this masterclass. Read the city.
Thank you, Mate. Really nice to be here in Trebon. This is my first trip to the Czech Republic, and it's long, long overdue for me. I'm really having a great time here. I want to stay here for the whole summer. I'm going to be talking about a concept. Can I have computer number 1, please? Thank you. So I'm going to be introducing a concept here that has to do with my obsession, which is CG animation. And I have a particular obsession within that obsession, which is human beings and this thing called the Uncanny Valley. Raise your hand if you don't know what the Uncanny Valley is. Okay, so you're all pretty familiar with this. A couple of hands that I saw there. So I'm going to nonetheless give you a refresher course on this thing that gives inspiration to the class that I want to do. Though I walk through the valley. And the Uncanny Valley is a thing that I actually feel comfortable residing in. And I'm going to show you some things that make that Uncanny Valley the kind of unpleasant thing that animators really, really would like to avoid on a number of different levels. Okay, so my obsession within this is the human face. Okay, so this is a pop quiz. This is start off with. There are 2 people, photographs of 2 people there. One of them was, the 44th President of the United States, and the other guy is not. Raise your left hand if you think it's the guy on the left who's the former President Barack Obama. Raise your left hand if you think this guy on the left is Barack Obama. Okay, so I'll see one hand. I'll say it again. Raise your right hand if you think the guy on the right is Barack Obama. Raise your left hand if you think the guy on the left is Barack Obama. So I'm saying like pretty much all right hands. And yeah, you're totally right. That is indeed Barack Hussein Obama, 44th President of the United States. The guy on the left is a fellow named Luis Ortiz from New York City. He's called Bronx Obama. Okay, so the deal with Luis Ortiz is that when Barack Obama was inaugurated president, Luis Ortiz became famous. And of course, as you might guess, he became famous for being a Barack Obama lookalike. Okay, and he's if you go to, like, for example, the New York Times website and type in Luis Ortiz, you'll see a documentary about him, and it's pretty uncanny. That word, uncanny. He's uncannily like Barack Obama. Okay, and let's put this in context here. There are approximately 7, maybe 7.5 billion people on this planet right now. Of those 7.5 billion people on this planet, there pretty much is one guy, the guy that you're seeing here, Luis Ortiz, who bears the most resemblance to this other guy who happened to be president of the United States. Arguably, maybe there's some guy living in Kenya or Ethiopia who might look a little bit more like it, but arguably no. Arguably, if you wanted to find a doppelganger for Barack Obama out of 7.5 billion people, you found it in this guy, Luis Ortiz, right? And yet, all of you raised your right hand within a half a second. how were you able to distinguish out of 7.5 million people one face from another, even though this face is the doppelganger of Barack Obama? There is an acuity, an instinctual, hardwired acuity that we human beings have for being able to recognize faces. Let me give you another quiz here. Who's that? Sorry? Yeah. Sorry. Princess Diana.
Diana.
Yes. The image that you see there on the...
I'm at the first row, so it's easier for me.
Yeah. And if I waited, I'm pretty sure I would have heard Diana from back here. But even in the first row, the information that you're looking at is contained within something that's maybe 3 centimeters high. So you're dealing with a resolution that's this. Okay? And then you were able to, from that, distinguish an actual person, recognize that actual person. And indeed, that is Diana, Princess of Wales, and God rest her soul. But what I'm getting at here is the hard wiring that we have in our brains. There's an actual particular area of our brain called the fusiform gyrus that is dedicated only to recognizing one human face from another human face and recognizing one human expression on a particular face from another expression. We, as social creatures, human beings, absolutely need to have that talent in order to be able to tell a friend from foe, being able to tell relatives from strangers, being able to discern from a particular twitch of a muscle or a particular setting of a person's eyes, whether that person is going to be your friend or whether that person is going to kill you. Okay? So over about 1.5 million years, we have developed more than any other creature on this earth the ability to look at faces and to recognize them and to be able to empathize with a person's emotions. There's something in our neural instinct, it's called the mirror instinct, in which we take on the feeling and the expression on our own faces of a person who is experiencing another emotion. We tend to instinctually scrunch our face up into an expression of pain when we see a person who's going through pain. We tend to smile when the other person is smiling. And this is, again, something that is so primordial in our behavior and in our consciousness of negotiating the waking world that we take it for granted. And where that comes apart, where there's a problem there, is when people who do animation try to mimic what people already do naturally. And if they get it wrong, we pick it up immediately, whether we intellectually know it or not. Okay? And that is the problem with this thing that most of you, as I took a show of hands, know about, this thing called the Uncanny Valley. So here's the refresher course here. 2 axes there on this chart. The horizontal axis is how realistic a character or human-like thing, like a robot perhaps, would be. The vertical axis is how much you trust that person, character, or robot. Okay, so we'll stick with animation. The Uncanny Valley was thought of, and the phrase was coined initially back in 1970 by a guy named who was a robotologist. And yeah, he came up with the graphic shown here, and it's just as easily applied to animated characters. If you're on the left side of that realistic horizontal axis, you're generally going to have very simple characters who are not that, trustworthy, not that human or empathic, but it's okay because they're generally ridiculous characters, like this dude.
I said I'm going to punish you, and don't hell or high water. Wait a minute. Ice cream truck!
Okay, so simple character, not very realistic, but you don't have to tell very complex stories with a guy like Homer Simpson. Let's go further along that horizontal axis to a little bit more higher level of realism.
Run!
really stylized. There's no mistaking Snow White for an actual real person, but that level of stylization allows for, well, what you see there, that kind of wide-eyed, confused expression of fear. All right? You start to engage with some real empathy of the character. Go a little further along that horizontal axis.
School was great, all right? Is everything okay?
So yeah, that's Riley from the Pixar film Inside Out. And, you know, Pixar has this sterling reputation for not only the technique of CG animated characters, but that they do stories with an extremely high, sometimes incredible amount of empathy. Like what Riley did in those 2 seconds there was to, first of all, show ultra-realistic hair with subsurface, what's called Raleigh scattering of the sheen, of the highlight of that hair. Down to the micron level, Pixar has worked out the rendering model for making hair look ultra-realistic. She's got nice skin subsurface scattering, but you know the thing about Riley, as with most other Pixar characters, is like you saw that she did that with her eyes, right? She rolled her eyes. Okay, the timing of something like an eye roll can be incredibly loaded. Okay, emotionally loaded. And one of the things that I so admire, why I chose that particular clip, is that that eye roll comes at just the right time to show that Riley has some really loaded problems. And if you've seen the film, you know what that is about. So, again, though, you're never going to confuse Riley for a real person. There's enough stylization there, along with those, you know, very meticulously detailed, rendered, scattered skin. The freckles and other like organic things. The cloth folding is immaculate. The radiosity, ray tracing of the light scattering through her hair is perfect. But she is not a human being. Okay. So yeah, we keep going down along that horizontal axis. I'm going to skip over that part, which, as I think most of you know, is that Uncanny Valley that I'll be getting at. And let's go to like a real person.
I'm totally real and totally human. You can trust me.
Right. So that guy there is as trustworthy as it gets, right? Okay? Because he's real, you have no doubt that is live action footage and that is a real flesh and blood human being, okay? So that's the far end of this graph. But then, as most of you know, that deep red area there represents this kind of curious thing, which is this dip in the amount of trustworthiness that character is going to give us. So, a few examples of that, and I'm going to skip over between animation and robots here. Okay, the Uncanny Valley. This is the place where characters are almost real, but not quite real, and there's a big problem with that.
You like zombies? Zombies eat brains.
Mom, no one liked zombies. They're an abomination.
I am a social companion. I can speak of emotions and I can recognize people.
She's singing, I feel fantastic, hey, hey, hey. So, I don't know, some of you may have seen that. That actually went pretty viral about 3 or 4 years ago, and like just an example of the most terrifying kind of robot. There's been actually theses written about this because the author was the guy who posted this was anonymous, and there was speculation that the guy who was shooting it was a mass murderer who had bodies hidden in the backyard. All the speculations went dark, right? None of the speculations about that went happy or light. This was terrifying to people, okay, as you might guess. So there's something really primordial, right, where you don't quite get it right, particularly in the human face. And that's where I do a class, I'll be getting to it later, a Masterclass that I take to schools and studios and universities. I've done about 3 or 5 of these Masterclasses in the last 10 years, and I'm still doing it. I'm If you guys are interested, talk to me about it. It's called Making Faces. But the thing that I'm going to move on from that, because, yes, Making Faces. So I'm going to be actually bringing you through a very quick sampler of what Making Faces is about, because it's something that I very much believe in, and not just for people doing CG animation, but for people doing animation in general, that there are things about human faces that, although I'm going to show you CG stuff, it'd be great if you could like take in some of the stuff that's behind the CG, behind the computer animation. So, I just want to see if I've got this one. No, keep going here. There's, actually, I do want to show a clip here. This crashed before I was able to save it, but we want to do this. Please be patient. I would really love to show you this. This is a clip that gained some infamy about a year ago. This is a company in Japan, as you can see there. This fellow here, a guy named Kami. The company is Duane, and they are showing a very esteemed guest their software for doing procedural animation on zombies.
人工知能で動きを学習させた CG を見せてくれるそうです。
踊ってるように見えますけど、これは早く移動するっていう学習させたやつなんですね。これ頭を使って移動してるっていう。基本通貨とかないし、頭が大事という概念がない。頭を普通の足を使って移動してるっていう。この動きがとにかく気持ち悪いんで、ゾンビゲームの動きに使えるんじゃないかっていう。こういうキーボードを使うと。多分人間が想像できない気持ち悪い動きができるんじゃないかな。
So that is the guest who they're showing you. You guys know who this is, right? This is the great master Miyazaki. So Miyazaki is taking a trip, a field trip to these guys' offices, and you're going to see his response. And I'm going to guess that some of you are going to share Miyazaki's feelings.
こんなことやっています。
毎朝もらわない身体障害の友人がいるんですよ。その配達するのが大変なんですよ。彼の筋肉がこわばってる手と僕の手を配達する。その彼のことを思い出してね、僕はこれ面白いと思って見ることできないんですよ。これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね、何も考えないでやつでしょう。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやってるのは勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつかみたいとか全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
This is where I admire. I don't know if you guys know a fellow named Ed Hooks. Ed Hooks teaches acting for animators, and Ed and I cross paths every now and then, and both of us love to use this kind of footage. This piece of footage, I'm showing you this for a number of different reasons. This is so telling on a number of levels. First of all, the obvious level, right? These guys have just shown something that is, you cannot get worsely into the Uncanny Valley than what these guys just showed Master Miyazaki. So what Miyazaki had in response there was utter, complete revulsion. All right? And this is revulsion that I talk about mirror instinct. Like I have that mirror instinct when I see Miyazaki myself, that they're, like I am feeling the most menacing aspect of CG animation. Not just the tool of animation, the nice rendering, ultra-realistic stuff that is very off-putting to many people, but that this is literally inhuman. Okay? These guys are, I'm just going to play it because on one other level, I love looking at this footage because I I love to study faces. I love to study body language. And the guy who's the chairman of this project, this fellow, is now on the defensive. His voice has just gone up half an octave. And he has a smile on his face. That's a kind of nervous smile. We do smile as an act of defense often, not just an act of happiness or joy. What is your goal? Just look at that body language. We would like to build a machine that can draw pictures like humans do. No. I show this clip freely because this company actually did make it public, and so I'm taking them at their license to show it publicly here. But this clip is revealing in so many ways about the dread of this thing we call the Uncanny Valley, and the dread of something even human in that valley. Okay, so like I say, I'm kind of into the Uncanny Valley myself, and I'd actually like to go into the Uncanny Valley every once in a while. I'm going to show, if you guys come tomorrow, I think it's in the evening, tomorrow 8 o'clock in the evening, I think, Monday. My screening is tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow evening. I will be screening my short films, one of which is called Subconscious Password. And Subconscious Password is actually almost completely set in the Uncanny Valley, but hopefully not the really unpleasant kind of Uncanny Valley. There's some redeeming qualities to being in that uncanny area. I try to explore them. And I try to explore them through faces and facial expressions. And this sort of gets to the very, very, very abridged course that I teach. The full version of my course is a week-long, 8-hour-a-day, 5-day boot camp. The version I'm going to show you here is maybe 20 minutes long. Okay, but I'm going to show you some things that do not actually directly involve animation, because animation is not, as I teach it here, is not really, doesn't really come from the act of keyframing. It comes from the act of observation. It comes from the feeling of empathizing, being inside the head of your character, and literally feeling what the character feels. And when I say literally, what I mean is when a character smiles or a character grimaces or a character shows whatever expression, you feel your muscles pull on various parts of your face. And if you can know what those muscles are and feel them in your own face, you can literally, in this case literally, get inside the head of your character as you are animating those muscles, those expressions on your character. So here's an example. This is an actor in Philadelphia, where I taught at the University of Pennsylvania 4 years ago. Her name is Felicia Light. She's lovely. She's incredibly talented stage actor. And we've set up a kind of a scenario here. The scenario is she's got her big break, right? She's an understudy in a Shakespeare theater in Philadelphia, and she has been called upon this morning to be the lead role in King Lear. She's going to be Cordelia. Wow, she's going to be on stage in a leading role, and she has 5 hours to learn her lines. So she's desperately trying to go through the script and learn her lines. Then I walk in, and I'm an asshole. I have a reputation amongst a circle of friends of borrowing cash, of intimidating people into giving money to them, and skipping town. And now I've just come in at just the right moment because she's trying to learn her lines.
Felicia, how are you doing?
Hi, Chris.
It's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
So yeah, you got my email, right? About $1,000.
Okay, so you start to see something there. Like she's trying to be socially pleasant, and so she's smiling, zygomatic muscles. I'll get to the muscles later. What you do when you're trying to be socially engaged with a person, okay? But you see some problems with her face. It's not an entirely pleasant face, okay? One of the things that's happening, I'd love to show these details here, because great is that, see that little dimple right there? Okay, that's a dimple that doesn't normally appear when you're smiling in a normal way. There's a certain muscle called the buccinator muscle that shows instinctually a little bit of stress. So that's what she is showing on her face, even though she's not intending.
I don't know if now is really the best time to go.
Okay, now you see some other things happening up here, like there, those little wrinkles in the middle of her forehead. That's another muscle. It's called the corrugator muscle. And this is a muscle that you use when you're concentrating, when you're frowning, when you're really trying to emphasize a very serious point. And what she's telling me is that she doesn't have time to see me.
Right.
I really need this money. I emailed you yesterday about this, and I mean, it's for really good. I'm moving in with your best friend, Michelle, and I need it for a security deposit.
She told me, and I know a lot has happened for me since yesterday, so I actually need to be doing
Come on. I mean, what are you doing there?
I have to learn my lines for a show that I have to do tonight.
Oh, are you doing acting still? That's cute.
Thanks.
So I just insulted her. And that little dimple pockmark has come back on the side of her face. So she holds that there.
But enough of that.
And she does this. You suck your lips in like that. It's a muscle called the orbicularis oris muscle. You are definitely trying to weather through a situation. Being very patient.
I need the money.
You need the money? Do you know how many times I've lent you money before? Do you know how many times I've gotten that money back from you?
We're friends. Be a friend. I had to...
Sorry, I'll have to back up there. Yeah, there we go. So, this is the thing about eyes. If you look around the room, you look at people who are just normally just hanging out. You see, like the colored part of the eye, it's called the iris. The middle part, the dot in the middle is the pupil. So the iris is normally, pretty much at all times, covered by the top eyelid, right? Okay? But now, as you can see, with Felicia, she's showing all of her iris. You can see the whites of her eyes above those irises. This is very rare. This doesn't happen very often when you're awake and hanging out. Okay? And it only happens if that person is starting to have a feeling of extreme aroused agitation. Now, you guys, I'm going to ask a basic question here. What emotion do you think she's feeling here? Okay, disgust, I hear. Anyone else? She's incredulous. Yeah. Okay, I'll play a little bit more.
I had to leave town.
You had to leave town? Yeah, you had to leave town before you gave me my $2,000 back last time. Now you want me to give you another $1,000?
What I'm just seeing here is that her face, particularly her upper face, is dancing. It's just going around. There's like the eyebrows going up and then down instantly, and then the furrow coming in and coming out instantly, her eyes darting around, and then, I can play this step frame through this, and you can see that there's just so much going on. She is really agitated.
And I have something important to do that I need to do now.
We're friends, right?
I need you to get out. I need you to get out right now.
Please.
No.
I would say that she has gone from disgust into outright rage, anger.
I need it.
So, right there, the ultimate expression of rage is screaming. Okay, so, but this is the thing. This is quintessential anger. This is what she's about as angry as you can get somebody to be. All right. But this is anything about anger, and this is where a lot of animators, particularly animators, go into preconceived notions. And what I try to show with footage like this is that some of those preconceived notions may be wrong. Like one preconceived notion is that if you want to make a person look angry, if you're animating a character, the thing you would want to do is to make their eyebrows going like that, right? That's the quintessential, V shape of the eyebrows. That's what you would expect an angry person to do. What you saw with Felicia is that she doesn't really do that very much at all. As I said, her face is dancing around. That's the sign of anger. It's the motion, it's the dynamics of the face, and not so much the posed expression of the face that betrays her extreme emotion of rage here. And I would say that, like one exercise that I give, and I'm being only half joking here, is that if you have a significant other, wife, husband, or girlfriend or boyfriend, Tonight, go home and pick a fight with them. And then look at their face, and you'll see what I'm showing here, which is that as your wife or husband or whatever is like just raging at you, their face is very rarely going to be doing that mad, quintessential mad face. You're going to see dancing on that upper face. And this is what I tried to get across here about the flux, the dynamics that a face goes through as that extreme emotion is coming out. So that's the live action stuff for the moment. And now I'm going to get into, hopefully not too boring, Latin words dealing with the actual stuff that happens underneath the skin of your face. This is a part of my class that I call the anatomy of emotion. Okay, so if it's okay, David, if you're back there. David? Okay, I'm going to want to switch over. Dave, if we can switch over to the other machine. And if it's okay, David, I'm going to be going kind of a frequent switching from one machine to the other. So this is a character, obviously, or a face rig. It's a teaching tool that I use, also a research tool, because as I'll get into a little bit later, I do research at the University of Toronto on facial anatomy and animation. And this particular character I call Valley Girl, for obvious reasons. Okay, so Valley Girl here, well actually, Valley Girl can also be Valley Boy. Okay, so yeah, actually there are a few different iterations of this character. I'm going to be showing you two of them here. I'll go back to Girl just because it's better to show the match between her and her doppelganger, which is what's happening to the Valley Girl underneath her skin. And what you see there, of course, underneath her skin is a collection of bones and muscles. Okay? This is where we get into the machinery. Okay? Because I do think of human beings as machines. I think there are souls, there are ghosts in those machines. But the machinery of a person, particularly a person's face, is the key to understanding facial emotion. Okay, so I'm going to get into a few of the bits of this machine, the muscles, that make a person show happiness, sadness, or in the case of Felicia just there, utter complete rage. All right? So, how many of you are computer animators? Okay, a few of you. I'm going to be introducing some terms that computer animators, or at least computer riggers, people who actually put together the characters, the rigging of the character for the animators to use. I'm going to be using some terminology here as well. And again, although it's CG speak, it's actually kind of nice for you, those of you who are not computer animators, to know. So one of the things is an acronym of 4 letters, FACS. And that stands for the Facial Action Coding System, FACS. And raise your hand if you've heard of FACS, F-A-C-S. Okay, so yeah, one person here. People who are who animate with computer-generated rigs of characters are generally, more often than not, going to use faces that have been rigged with the FACS convention. Okay. Now, FACS is a term that comes. Let me see if I actually have a slide here. Yes, can we switch over, please, Dave, to computer number 1? That's amazing. You just do that so quickly. Thank you. All right. So yes, FACS is a thing called the Facial Action Coding System. Our understanding of faces, the machinery of faces, how they work, and how we can see expressions of faces is actually not a very old field at all. Okay, Charles Darwin did some tinkering with facial anatomy, back in the mid-1800s. A fellow named Guillaume Duane in France sort of took it a little bit further around the turn of the around 1900 or so. But it was only about 40 years ago that a fellow, or actually 2 people here, Paul Ekman and Wallace Friesen, particularly Paul Ekman, who did exhaustive empirical research with like a multitude of cultures around the world, tribes in Amazon, societies in Papua New Guinea, people in Europe, Native Americans, people in Asia. And he found a universal sort of code by which we use our faces to express all the emotions in the human universe. Happiness, sadness, jealousy, embarrassment, fear, rage. There's a certain code, facial action coding system, which is absolutely essential for understanding how we show those emotions on our faces. Okay? So it's based on distinct muscles in the human face, and it's based on the notion that each muscle has more or less one thing that it does. It pulls. It pulls on a part of your skin. And that pulling on that part of your skin is a thing called an AU, or an action unit. Okay? So I'm going to bring you through a few of these action units. All right? So, you know, there's hundreds of muscles in the human body. In the face, there's probably about, depending on how you count, and there's different ways of counting, probably about 100 to 150 or so. But basic muscles, the ones that really do the work in moving your face around, come down to about 14 muscles on each side of your face. And yeah, the long version of the class, I would be bringing you through all of these different muscles. So no, I'm not going to do that here because what time is it actually? Yeah, so yeah, we have about an hour left, and I'm going to talk as much. I want to cram as much material into this as possible. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this in a really abridged version. But there's Felicia again, and there's Valley Girl. And what I'm going to do is bring you through a few of these different muscle actions. And we'll be talking about not just the actions, but the actual muscles themselves. Okay, so the thing about muscles in your face that make them actually very, very different than muscles in the rest of your body is that they don't move your body around. Like muscles in the rest of your body, like say, take the flexor digitalis muscle that goes from your humerus bone here, it stretches along your forearm here, and goes underneath your carpal tunnel and into the palm of your hand and into the base of your fingers. When that muscle flexes, you do that with your hand. Okay? A bunch of other muscles help along, but that's a muscle that, because it's stretched across many joints, like it stretches across your elbow joint, it's called the olecranon, stretches across all of your carpal bones in here, stretches across your first phalangeal finger joints here. And so, of course, when it contracts, when your brainstem tells this muscle here to contract, you know, some part of your body moves. Okay? The muscles in your face, though, don't get stretched from one joint to another joint. So they're not really moving anything on your body. Instead, for the most part, they attach between some part of your skull, bone in your skull, to not another bone, but to your skin, right? It seems utterly purposeless. Why would a muscle be dedicated to simply moving skin around? I would say that the reason that those muscles have existed, the reason they've evolved over these couple of million years, is that, as I was saying when I started talking here, that we have, by necessity, had to develop the instinct to be able to tell a person's emotion. We need to be able, particularly like in primordial sense, we need to be able to tell if a person's about to kill us or if that person is about to kiss us, right? So, we have developed this intricate network of muscles that allow you to be able to see that, like, because my forehead is raised at the moment here, that I'm kind of adamant about the stuff that I'm talking about here. That when I'm doing this and you see little wrinkles here, that I'm pretty serious and concentrating about what I'm trying to explain here. So I'm going to bring you through a few of these muscles here. And we're on computer number 1 here, and so we're looking at the relaxed face. Now let's compare that with this, in which you see Felicia over here, that you see these little wrinkles here. Okay? You see wrinkles on Valley Girl over here. There's a muscle that she's flexing. It's called the frontalis muscle. Frontalis muscle is this big sheet muscle that goes from the top of your hairline up here, that's where it inserts into your skull, goes vertically down your forehead and inserts or attaches into the skin just underneath your eyebrows. So when you are contracting that frontalis muscle, as I'm doing here, can we switch to computer number 2, please? Just for a second here. Okay. David, yes. Thank you very much. Okay, so yes, what's happening here, I'm going to do this on my rig, is that frontalis muscle goes up, and you see this muscle contract here, and you see wrinkles develop in Valley Girl's forehead. All right? So, yeah, that's a definite thing that happens, and you do that instinctually when you are aroused, as you saw Felicia be aroused there. That forehead goes up, and if you're seeing a person raising their frontalis muscle, you're going to see those horizontal lines. I don't know in Czech what that would be called. In English, they are called worry lines. I don't know, come with a translation of that. So yes, horizontal lines, in English they're called worry lines, and yeah, when you see those on a face, you have an instinct that that person is paying attention. Okay, switch back to computer number 1, please, Dave. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm bringing you through just a few more here. This is a very abridged version here. So I was talking about concentration, about that frowning look that you get that results in my face here. I don't know if you can see well enough here, but if your eyes are sharp in the back, you will see that I have these vertical lines coming out of the middle of my face like that. Okay, that's because I'm using a muscle called the corrugator muscle. So the corrugator muscle is a very thin muscle that originates in the bridge of your nose and fans out and inserts into this sort of cluster area in the middle of your forehead, right about here. Okay, so that muscle is going to contract, and when that contracts, it's causing the skin on your forehead to bunch up and go towards the middle of your forehead and to be forced down. And because of that, you get a couple of wrinkles in the middle of your forehead. So if you see those wrinkles, as you saw, I think I'm showing Felicia, those two kind of vertical lines coming out of the middle of forehead, you've got to sort of get the impression that the person is in this deep state of concentration, okay? Or perhaps a deep state of agitated emotion, upset, angry, or disgusted. Generally a negative emotion. You don't generally feel a lot of happiness when you're doing this in your face. Okay, so that's another muscle. I'm going to move down I'll skip the eye splinter and move down to the middle part of the face. So this is a muscle called the nose wrinkler. I'll give you the Latin. Alica nasi labius superiorus. Okay, alica means wing, nasi means nose, labius means lip, and superiorus means upper. So literally, that alica nasi labius superiorus translates to wing, nose, upper lip. So it's actually a good name for the muscle. It's actually the worst name to try to remember because it's just a lousy Latin name. But yeah, it actually means something. It's a muscle that goes along the wings of your nose. It originates up here by the bridge of your nose, goes vertically downwards along the wings of your nose, and inserts into your upper lip. Wing, nose, upper lip. Okay? So when you flex that muscle, it tends to bring the middle part of your upper lip straight up. I'll show it on my own face. Okay? It's called the nose wrinkler because, again, if you have sharp eyes, I could bring up a camera and show it immediately, but I'll just do this. If you look closely, you'll see that I've got wrinkles coming down the middle of my nose, coming diagonally down. You can also see this on Felicia. And David, could I have computer number 2 again for a second, please? Thank you. All right, so I'm going to flex that muscle. You see it flex right there. This is the muscle here that's flexing, okay? So you see on Valley Girl there, if you come in closer, you'll see that a wrinkle has formed along the bridge of her nose. That's because this muscle, when it's causing the upper lip to go up, it's folding the skin like an accordion so that you get not only this wrinkle in your nose, but you get this other thing happening as well, which is this. You see that little fold right there? Okay. Now, as we age, we get, you see this kind of diagonal fold come off a person's nose. Like an elderly person is going to have a very deep set crease right here. It's called the nasolabial fold. On a young person, I'm looking at the audience, I'm seeing a lot of pretty young faces here. But on a young person, you generally don't see that fold, okay? Unless that young person is disgusted, okay? Using this muscle, this nose wrinkling muscle, is a universal gesture of disgust. You only tend to use this muscle when you are feeling this kind of negative, revolted emotion, okay? The wing nose upper lip muscle. Let's go back to computer number 1, please, Dave. Awesome. Okay, so I've been showing some more or less negative emotions here. Finally, let's get to some positive stuff here. She's smiling, okay? And the actual act of smiling is accomplished with really only one set of muscles. It's called the zygomatic major muscle. So the zygomatic major muscle is one that originates in your cheekbone, in your outer cheekbones, where my fingers are here, and traverses diagonally down your face and inserts into right here the corners of your lip. So this muscle, as you might guess, because it's all diagonally set, as I'm showing here, is going to pull the corners of your lips, when you contract those muscles, upwards, outwards, and backwards. 3 dimensions. It's a pretty complex motion to the face when this muscle contracts. And of course, when you do that, you smile. Okay? It's a very simple act of this muscle pulling diagonally up on your lips. And this muscle is one of all these muscles that I'm going through in the face. The zygomatic major muscle is about the most powerful of these muscles. It's a very, very strong muscle. And the reason that it's strong is that we do a lot of smiling. We are conditioned, this is part of being a social creature here, is that of all the muscles that we have to use in order to get by in life, smiling is absolutely essential. Okay? So whether we're even thinking about it or not, most of us are smiling. I'm looking at people right now, and what there is about like a 5% amount of usage of your zygomatic muscles because of the fact that you're engaged with, well, me, but if you're engaged with any of your friends, if you're having lunch with them, if you're just hanging out, you're not going to have a quite neutral face. You're going to have, sorry, hopefully I'm not driving you mad here. I need the computer to again, please. Okay, so I'm going to bring Valerie up here again. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show that smiling muscle. There, so she's smiling. Yeah, all nice and smiling. Now, a neutral face. There's a lot to be said about neutral faces. If you're an animator, you know what I'm talking about. A neutral face where no muscles are moving at all. When we are actually neutral, we're not completely dead in our face. Okay, and this is part of that Uncanny Valley creepiness that I see every now and then. Because when a person thinks that they're neutral, look closely here. They're actually doing this. You see the difference between that and this? Okay? We have this conditioning, for the most part. We have this conditioning that when we're hanging out with people, we smile ever so slightly. Okay? So that muscle, the zygomatic major muscle, is almost always on to some degree. And in fact, the exceptions to that, you've heard the term in English anyway, resting bitch face. A resting bitch face, like, I don't know, Kirsten Stewart, for example, or before that, Betty Davis, a great actor, Betty Davis. These are sort of rare cases of people who don't do that kind of social smiling, right? That very slight kind of smile that you see right there. And because of that, they get this really nasty title. Actually, I think it's kind of a badge of honor. I think it's kind of cool to have a resting bitch face. Okay. And by the way, I don't mean the gender specific here, because Keanu Reeves has a resting bitch face too. Okay. But yeah, not having that kind of social smile, kind of sets you apart. Kind of gives you this kind of exceptional, like, on some level, if not consciously, you're wondering why that person isn't smiling. Okay, when you don't think that there's, when you think that we're all neutral, but we're not necessarily obviously showing happiness, we're still smiling ever so slightly, a little bit. Okay, so that's a thing about neutrality that is important when you are, and again, I'm saying this is not just CG faces, this is like faces in general. If you're managing, you want to get that complex sense of humanity in that face. That's pretty important. That's one of those things that I feel is very important. Computer 1 again, please. Okay, so moving on from smiling, unfortunately we're going to get back into some negative emotion. So remember that dimple that I was talking about with Felicia when she started to show stress. Okay, you see the dimple on this guy here. All right, don't even know who that guy is. Was? Goodwins. That's Joseph Goodwins. So this particular photograph I included here because this was from a bunch of photographs taken by the great photographer for Life magazine back in the 1930s, Alfred Eisenstadt. Okay, so it's like, I think it's 1934, 1935. The Nazis had just come to power in Germany, and Life magazine decides to publish a human interest story about some of the top people in the Nazi party. So they sent Alfred Eisenstadt and a reporter to cover a human interest story about Joseph Goebbels. All right, so they're just having a nice conversation. The reporter's taking down notes. Eisenstadt's taking pictures, and you see I show some pictures of Goebbels, and he's smiling. He's having a great time. They're talking about baseball and hot dogs and stuff. You know, he's trying to show America that he knows stuff about America. Until they wrap up, they're starting to get close to the end of the session, and it's at that moment that Eisenstadt tells Joseph Goebbels that he's Jewish. Eisenstadt is Jewish. And what you see there is the reaction of Joseph Goebbels at the exact moment that Eisenstadt told him that Albert Eisenstadt, am Jewish. And what you're seeing there is a person who's gone from a relaxed, happy face to this. Okay? What you're seeing there is that Joseph Goebbels, I hate to use him as an example, but I also love to use him as an example, is showing this muscle called the buccinator muscle. I'll show it on my own face here. Neutral face, buccinator. I think you'll see some dimples, like the ones I was showing Felicia on my own face. And that's the dimple that Mr. Goebbels is showing there. It's a look of stress, instinctual clenched revulsion, and hate. Okay? So there's something loaded about that buccinator muscle. So yeah, I brought you through a few of the ones in the middle part of the face. I'll bring you through a couple of the lower face. There's something called the mentalis muscle that, like when you pout or shrug, you're using this muscle that pulls up on the middle part of your chin. There's another muscle here. This is, when I was saying before, you want to be able to tell if somebody's about to kill you or about to kiss you. Well, this is the muscle that sort of gives the impression of the second of those two things. It's called the incisivus muscle, and it does that. Okay, you use that to kiss, obviously, and you use it to also pronounce ooh, as in letter ooh. Okay, yeah, so it's a pretty powerful muscle that scrunches the whole bottom part of your face into this tiny little constricted round shape. Okay, so yeah, those are a few. That's less than half of the muscles that I go through when I teach the full version of the course. So that's the letters of the alphabet. I'm basically teaching an alphabet here. What, as I said, Paul Ekman called action units, AUs. You may have seen on my slide that they have numbers on it. Smiling, for example, is action unit number 12, like that. That's wincing motion there is action unit number 9. The brow furrowing is action unit number 4. And so people who are really into faces know these, really know these numbers. I just got an email from a fellow researcher who said, hope your action unit 12 is doing well. Basically saying, keep smiling. So, yeah, so you can get really geeky about this stuff. And I'm afraid that I've fallen into that myself. And it is my mission to doom some of you into that geeky universe as well. If you really want to get into really complex facial animation, it really pays off to be a geek like that, to know those action units. But I'm just showing you the letters of the alphabet, the individual action units. It's where you combine them where you start to get the complexity of human emotion, okay? So like, one of the things that Paul Eichmann discovered is that there are 6 basic expressions that all societies, all cultures around the world share as far as how they show those expressions in the face. And those are anger, sadness, disgust, surprise, fear, and happiness. The long version, of course, I go through a whole range of these different shades of these different emotions. I'm going to show you just a few here. Okay, so anger, start with anger, all right? So as I was saying before, with a real look of anger, you have your face constantly dancing around. You don't hold a particular pose or expression very long, for more than like a quarter second or half a second. I'm just showing snapshots here. When you show just very subtle anger, like when you're glaring, you tend to use a set of muscles in the upper part of your face. And what I was showing you with Felicia before is that one of the things that she did quite frequently as soon as she started to get angry is that she glared. You could see the whites of her eyes above her irises because the eyelids open up very, very wide. Right? Okay? I'm going to try to do this. Let's go back to computer number 2, please. I'm going to do this very, very briefly on Valley Girl's face. I'm going to combine a few expressions together. Guys, coming a little bit closer here. Suppose I want to give a look, a look of subtle anger to her. I might raise her brow like I'm doing there, and then I might offset that by bringing the brow down. So these are 2 muscles that are opposing each other. One's pulling up on her forehead, one's pulling down on her forehead. And muscles can do that. You can have muscles doing opposite actions. And when you get those opposite actions, you start to get real complexity in the face. Actually, let me go to hopefully go to there we go, a little bit finer version of that. So there she has a combination of worry lines and a little bit of furrowing in the middle of her brow. So let's combine that now with another action unit 5, and that's what raises her eyelids, as you see there, into something that looks more like that glare that Felicia was showing. Okay, so maybe we'll add to that maybe a little bit of asymmetry here. So let's take, for example, her lower eyelid and start to twitch it a little bit like that. All right. Maybe we can take another muscle that I had mentioned, the squinting muscle, and I'll start to add a little bit of squinting. Maybe to both sides of the face, but I'm going to try to get one side of the face, like there, a little bit more squinty than the other side of the face. I'll take both. So they're the same, but not quite the same. Okay? Now, combination of that, I'll start to add, this is like a recipe, right? Like you're adding a pinch of this and a touch of that. Okay? So I might add this muscle called the labia superioris muscle, and then on top of that, that nose wrinkler muscle that I was mentioning before. This one here. So she's starting to show a little bit of definitely negative emotion there. But now let's start to really bring the lower face into it. And the lower face, I don't know, I might bring her lower lip down, like so. And I might bring the upper lip a little bit further up, like this. And I might open up her jaw a little bit like this. Okay? And it kind of helps maybe to make that a little bit asymmetrical like that. Okay? Now, can you bring in another muscle? I love this muscle because it's so expressive. It's called the risorius muscle. Okay, the risorius muscle brings a really weird stretching element to your lower face. I'll show it there in its full form, like that. I'll bring it back a little bit here, and I might dial in, say, just a little bit of asymmetry on one side of the face, like say her right side, like that. Okay? So I could keep going like that. I could like make her face actually open up into more of a scream or rage like that. And you can start to see where it starts to get really tough. This is the problem going between a Mac and a PC, is that you press that wrong button and get that stupid menu in there. So that's character animators, this is where they just have so much fun, right? Because they're combining in these like different shades, different combinations of muscles, and you get these surprising results from it. Sometimes it looks like anger, but it's not necessarily anger. It could be just something in the middle of a really weird laugh, for example. Let's go back to computer number 1, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to just bring along, just go very quickly through how this goes into an escalated sense of rage on Valley Boy here. Okay, I'm going to show another piece of footage. Like I say, I'm not showing a whole lot of animation here. I'm really showing a lot of stuff that makes animators able to observe what's going on. This is a guy named Jason Spencer, also he's a freelance guy now, but when I was working with him, I taught this course for DreamWorks in India back in 2011. And Jason, at that point, was just coming off of being the animation director of Megamind, DreamWorks film, Megamind. Just going to try to make that, just put it right in the middle here. So I'm bringing him through another emotion here. I'm just going to show a little bit of this sadness. Let's get this started here. So there's sorry. Again. Actually, it's good to start this again because that's her more or less neutral face. And you can see, I mean, Jason's my age, but say that you do the math and figure everything out here. But both Jason and I were 50 at this time when we taught here. So yeah, what you're seeing in that neutral face of a 50-year-old person is more or less a smooth skin up here. You remember I mentioned this diagonal fold, the nasolabial fold, and this is sort of how you know that Jason is a middle-aged guy and not a young guy, because that nasolabial fold, even in a neutral face, is pronounced. Okay, but what you can see here is that fold going through a lot of different changes, along with a lot of other wrinkles that you see on his face. So, but one of the hopefully clear things you see there is that he now has these two ridges happening up here. That's that muscle. If this was a real class, I'd be quizzing you on this. What muscle is that? Well, it's a coordinator muscle, action unit number 4. And so a lot of action unit 4 is starting to happen here. But you see that another thing that's happening is that his lip is, particularly his left lip, is upturning a little bit. He's actually smiling a little bit. But here's the thing about the use of that smiling zygomatic muscle is that you sometimes do use it when you're not happy. And you'll see this in a big way in about 30 seconds. The one thing you're seeing here is some wrinkling happening down in the middle part of his chin. That's a muscle that I mentioned before, the mentalis muscle, pulling up on the lower part of his chin. And when you see that mentalis muscle go up on a person, you will generally see that accompanied by a bunch of wrinkles. All right. So those bunch of wrinkles are going to tell you that that person is in a either pouting state, or in the case of Jason, that he's about to start crying. Upper face, these wrinkles are getting deeper and deeper. But here's the thing. This is what I was saying before about smiling. He's actually smiling. Like he's using those same muscles for smiling, the zygomatic and major muscles. But I don't think that you would confuse this expression with one of happiness. As he goes more into this crying state, that smiling muscle gets used more and more intensely. But the thing about that is that it's weird. It doesn't look like a smile. What is it about that look that doesn't register? Hopefully, when you look at this, you don't think he's happy, right? What is it about, even though he's smiling, what is it about the look on his face that does not register as happiness? Because there's a lot else going on. When you're smiling out of happiness, you're not going to be using these muscles generally at all. You're never going to see these two vertical wrinkles in a person's face. And another thing about smiling, I'll get to smiling a little bit later. How are we doing on time, by the way? We're a little over an hour, so we're okay, right? Good. If I go late, I mean, there's not another program coming right after this. We could maybe check that out, but I might in the next half hour, see if you guys want to stick around maybe a little bit longer. But I'll try, actually, it's a good thing. I'm going to rush this along. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to get into sadness here. Because, yeah, what I was talking about, that smiling muscle, is what you see here in this guy's face. This is a very famous or infamous photograph of, again, I'm sticking with Nazis here, sorry about that. This is the moment that Nazi troops were marching under the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, which they had just occupied because they had just won the Battle of France in 1940. Okay, so a bunch of people, thousands of people, are gathering along Champs-Élysées to witness this horrible thing happening. And this photograph is a guy who's like freaking out, French citizen who is, as you might completely understand, very freaking out at what's going on, and he's crying. And you can hopefully register that that is not a look of happiness. However, excuse me, however, he is smiling. You can see a very broad smile as part of the expression on his face. And as Valerie was sort of showing there, yes, she's smiling, but that smile is coming with a bunch of other muscles that, combined with that smile, give that look of, hopefully, you can see unmistakable sadness. When a person's actually weeping, they've got a lot of smiling happening on their face. Okay, but here's the thing about, and I'll tell you the giveaway here, all those, that complex tangle of muscles that create a weeping and not smiling look. It's that mentalis muscle that I mentioned before. Here's the thing. You can tell if a person is happy or sad doing that smiling by whether or not you see their front lower teeth. Okay, if you can see their front lower teeth, they're probably having a good time. If you can't see their front lower teeth, it probably means they're crying like this dude here. Okay, because look, you see that he's smiling. Sorry, wrong mouse. You see that he's smiling there, but look at this pushing up action that hides those front lower teeth. You can see his back lower teeth, like the molars here. I'll zoom in on that. But the reason you can't see his front lower teeth is that although he's smiling, you see that there's this distinct W shape. You see the W, right? Down, up, the letter W. Okay? So if you see that kind of weird W shape, that's the giveaway. Like Jason was just showing from live footage, and that's what this he's doing, and that's what Valerie was doing. So these are poses. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly here. There's this feeling that goes between anger and neutrality and disgust. It's considered a different emotion to anger, okay? And disgust is more of a physical emotion, okay? And it's more of a judging emotion. When you're angry at somebody, it comes out of a sense of deep. It comes out of a sense that you need to be dominant over the other person. You get angry at somebody, okay? You get disgusted with somebody or towards somebody in English grammar. So there's a different dynamic with disgust. There are actually two kinds of disgust, sort of a low-level disgust and a high-level disgust. The low-level disgust is what this guy is showing here, and what Queen Elizabeth in this painting by Lucian Freud is showing in the bottom middle there. It's that sort of mild look of disdain. And so there's a difference between disgust and anger in this regard, and it's in the eyes. Okay? Look, you know what? I am going to just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to show a little bit of Felicia here. I would like to show this because Felicia, this is a different dynamic. This is where she's on the phone with me, and rather than being a threatening person to her, as I was in that previous piece of footage, I'm now on the phone, and I'm just kind of, I'm a schmuck. All right, I'm her brother. I'm a total idiot, and I'm trying to get her to send me some money so that I can pay this guy in Nigeria who just emailed me with a business opportunity.
Hello?
All right, Felicia.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, you were right. I got this great business opportunity, right? And I need to get some money.
Some money from me?
Yeah.
What is this business opportunity?
This fellow from Nigeria emailed me.
Okay, so stopped at a particular pose here. It's the pose that you saw when I'm showing, remember, Riley from Inside Out, showing the Uncanny Valley before. She's in the middle of an eye roll, okay? And this is the thing that you don't do when you're angry at somebody, but you do when you're feeling this kind of contempt. That's the word I'm looking for here. It's that low-level disgust, disdain is an English word for it, and contempt is the quintessential English word. So yeah, that contempt is as equally negative emotion to anger, but it's a calm emotion. You don't get riled up. Your heart rate doesn't go up when you feel contempt. Okay? And I was saying before about the eyes. With anger, the eyes just flare open and wide. With contempt, the eyes stay drooped. Okay? You look at her eyelids and you'll see as I place students that her eyelids never, ever, ever go up. They sometimes go down. Or in the case right here, you can see that she's rolling her eyes. And when she rolls her eyes, when she rolls her eyes,
hello?
You see the whites below her eyes, like there.
Hi, Chris.
And then you continue to see that as her eyelids stay drooped. Okay? She never ever flares her eyes. Okay? And so you see some similar things happening with her
Money for me? What is this business opportunity?
This fellow from Nigeria emailed me.
There's the
yesterday.
She does it again right there.
We're going to get $2 million.
Okay. And that's what I see there with a look of disgust. She's smiling there again. But the new thing that you see there, they didn't really even see the sadness. Smiling, but now with this nasolabial fold, this diagonal fold coming out into the nose. And that's the result of this muscle in here, the nose wrinkling muscle, being flexed, not enough to really wrinkle the nose, but definitely enough to cause this fold here and to make this lip go into this kind of curly shape. Okay, so that's a look of kind of mild contempt, all right? Calm, but very negative like that. The person she's talking on the phone, it just is kind of like, just dope, right? He's an insect. This person is really below her, you know? She doesn't have the time for this. She doesn't, and she has to take this damn phone call, and she's rolling her eyes. If you ever, there was actually a study done about the incidence of eye roll and the incidence of divorce between couples who roll their eyes. And there's this incredible correlation. Like if you roll your eyes a lot at your spouse, chances are you're going to be separated within a year. That's what actually this study showed. It's like disturbingly accurate. Yeah, so watch the eye roll. If you're a teenager, if you're 16 years old, yeah, eye roll all you want because you're supposed to do that. But if you're like in a friendship, try to keep the eye rolling down. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know, probably here is no place for Q&A, but it is very interesting, your picture. It reminds me as if somebody would came from outer space, that you are helping him to understand human beings. But I wanted to ask...
Animators are aliens. So that's,
but I also think that many of us animators, they will try to also to make on their own faces various expressions. But my question was, if you were thinking, if people have different expressions in different countries, because sometimes if you watch some bad American, but also other countries' movies, sometimes you see them that they act like, oh my God, wow. And I think that she is a little bit overacting, because the purpose was to show expressions.
I totally
and then is a question if you don't... this is also interesting topic which your lecture brought to me. How much to show it, because it's so tempting to show all these work of muscles, and then you can do something very subtle, which is, or people have a little bit. Sorry for, I'm trying not to give the lecture, but sometimes if you know that you are watched, like she knows, she is a little bit overacting, but the person who was sad, he was sad for himself. I am just curious about your názor.
First of all, I have to move my cursor because it looks like it's picking her nose. So moving that over there. I'm glad you asked that. Again, I'm talking about my course now, and I do a 5-day course. 3 of those days are animated. The first day of the course is called Doing Nothing. Okay, and so what I try to impress upon animators is that it is okay for your character to do nothing at all. And that it is okay for your character to show a lot of drama and expression with next to no expression on their face whatsoever. Okay, I show a lot of examples of that. Very, very subtle human response. If we have time, I'll show you a lot of actually pretty incredible real world of a little girl who's actually experiencing great joy, but you can hardly see it on her face, but you know that it's there. There's self-consciousness that an animator has to overcome, I feel. And we actually do acting exercises in the class. And the very simplest one, and you would think it's a very simple exercise, is actually doing nothing, where a person comes up in front of their classmates and for 30 seconds makes eye contact with everyone in the course. And the instruction is don't do anything. Be neutral. And more than half the time, the person can't do it. They're just so self-conscious, you know, it's like they start smiling, laughing, or, you know, it's like they're self-conscious, right? And that's the problem in animation as well, is that you get self-conscious. You feel that your character has to do something. Like it's that character's on screen, right? That character's taking up space. Gotta make it big, expressive in some way. So I say all these, not just student films, but professional films, and the character goes, oh, and like, you know, reacting to something happy, and going, oh, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's like, we don't do that as human beings. We're much more complex than that. And like, I could just like with Mate, I could just be like staring at you and smiling, what otherwise would be like in one context would be complete pleasantry, but in another context, for example, if you've just said something that I don't agree with, I might just like be stone-faced. Okay. And you would know just from the context that no, I wasn't just being pleasant, right? So there's incredible subtlety, and this involves observation, and that's why in my course I spend tons of time on those observations. Okay, so sorry, do have a little bit more. Sorry, do have a little bit more to cover. I'm going to bring you very, very quickly through discuss here. There's a certain point in which contempt, that is, if you think a person is an insect, if that emotion becomes more intense, it becomes outright disgust, where you're actually reacting to an actual insect, like a large bug, right? Ew, that's gross, right? That's what a person would do with that look of utter disgust. What makes this whole, that spectrum between contempt and what this person's doing here is the eyes. I keep coming back to the eyes. The eyes don't open wide. They always droop shut or squint shut. You want to get away from this person, and so you squint or you droop, and it's like there's anything in the world you'd rather be doing than hanging out with this person like that. Okay, that's disgust. Okay, moving on to surprise, and I'm just going to show this very briefly because I might as well show some live action footage. I don't know if you guys are keeping up on American politics all that much, but about 4 months ago there was an election in Georgia, in which the Republican candidate, I guess you're going to get my sort of politics a little bit here, the Republican candidate was this absolute slimeball who was literally a pedophile. This is the guy on the right is his spokesperson. And the guy on the right is, making apologies, basically excusing this guy's pedophile behavior because the guy who's Roy Moore is a fundamentalist Christian. That's a great thing according to this guy. So he makes this thing. He says homosexuality should be a crime, and that Muslims cannot occupy offices in United States governments. So Jake Tapper, the commentator on the left, is asking him about that.
Judge Moore has also said that he doesn't think a Muslim member of Congress should be allowed to be in Congress. Why? Under what
because you have to swear on the Bible. When you are before I had to do it. I'm an elected official, 3 terms. I had to swear on a Bible. You have to swear on a Bible to be an elected official in the United States of America. He alleges that a Muslim cannot do that ethically, swearing on the Bible.
You don't actually have to swear on a Christian Bible. You can swear on anything, really. I don't know if you knew that. You can swear on a Jewish.
Okay, so this guy's being told that you don't actually have to be swearing on the Bible in order to occupy a government office in the United States.
Bible?
Oh, no.
You can swear on
You see what he does, the guy on the right, is that his mouth starts to hang open.
On the Bible, I've done it 3 times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've picked a
The mouth hanging open there. Like, do you guys get Netflix, the series Stranger Things? Okay, so you're familiar with the term mouth breather? Okay, so this guy is going into the mouth breather mode, okay? And, like, here's the thing. Like, when we are hanging out generally, we keep our mouths shut, like this. Our jaws may be open. Like, for those of you who just said, your mouth is shut, are your teeth touching? Generally, probably not just not you, but in general. Generally, your teeth are not touching. Your mouth is hanging open a little bit when you're in a neutral thing, but your lips are nonetheless closed because you're using a muscle, ever so slight use of a muscle, to keep your lips closed. Because we're taught from an early age that it's rude to just go around like this, right? That's the mouth breather thing from Stranger Things. But this guy is mouth breathing, right? His jaw is hanging open, and it's hanging open because he's stunned. He's actually stunned to know that you don't have to swear on a Bible to be a government elected official.
Well, but the law is not that you have to swear on a Christian Bible. That is not the law. You don't know that?
10 seconds.
I don't know. 10 seconds. Donald Trump did it when he was made president.
Because he's Christian and he picked it. That's what he wanted to. That's what he wanted to swear in on. Ted Crockett with the More campaign. Good luck tonight. Thank you so much for being here. My panel will react.
Merry Christmas, Jay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to say that the Republican pedophile that this guy was representing lost the election. The Democrat. So yeah, that's the look of surprise. Your jaw hangs open. You're literally mouth breathing because I mean, like, look, there are in English there are synonyms for being surprised, and they all involve being like stupefied, dumbstruck, gobsmacked. All of these imply that for a moment, when you're in a state of surprise, you're momentarily stupid, right? I would contend that the guy you just saw is more or less permanently stupid. Yeah, in a moment though, if you are disoriented or just awed by what you see, you're dumb. And you're dumb for a while. And when you're dumb, you're a mouth breather. Your mouth hangs open, okay? And your eyes go wide. All right? So the rest of your face though is more or less dead. Not much happens when you have a look of surprise. Jaw goes down, eyebrows go up, and that's about it. Okay? So I'm gonna go through this very quickly because we are running out of time. Fear. The scream. Okay, you scream out of fear. If you really want to work out the muscles in your face, you go to the face gym to work out your muscles. You'll see in the face gym probably a lot of people screaming if they work in the face gym because screaming works out all of your facial muscles, particularly in the state of fear. So I'm just going to go very quickly. If you smile, normally I spend a lot of time on this topic of smiling. I'm going to go through it really, really fast here. Okay, because smiling is where animators are really going to get it wrong. Okay? If you get all those other expressions wrong, like anger or sadness or whatever, you can get away with a lot. We are forgiving of a depiction of a face that's in those negative emotions. But if you just smile wrong, people are going to say, that's Uncanny Valley, that looks horrible, that's awful. Okay, that's creepy. All right? So right now, like, Valley Girl is showing an Uncanny Valley kind of smile, not a good one. It's a creepy smile. Okay? And it's a smile that comes out of the fact that all she's doing right now is using those two smiling muscles, the zygomatic muscles. So I'm going to add something that hopefully makes her a little bit slightly less creepy. And what's happening there is that she's squinting ever so slightly. Okay? And Jason, I'll show you this is a close-up of Jason's face when he's not crying. Now he's smiling. But that's a neutral face. And a couple of seconds later, he does this with his face. In the bottom one, he's really smiling a lot. And if I didn't show you, I'm not showing you any of the rest of his face, but I think you can see that just with his eyes, you get a sense of happiness. He's smiling with his eyes. And you do that literally. You smile with your eyes because if you're really having a good time, as opposed to just faking your smile, you're going to have this involuntary action in your lower eyelids, in which there's a little bit pushing up. It's called the cheek raising action. Action unit number 6, if you want to know. So action unit number 6 is slight cheek raising of this set of muscles here, flattens out Jason's eyelids here. You see they go flat like this, as opposed to having that kind of U-shape you would normally expect. And then you start to get this kind of wrinkling. In English we call these crow's feet. And Jason, this is the thing, this is a beautiful thing about aging, right? Is that as you age, you get more of these crow's feet around the corners of your eyes when you smile. And this is something that I don't ever want to see anything Botox away. Crow's feet are the most beautiful part of a human face. Okay, so Jason's showing crow's feet there, and it looks great. So yeah, now you start to see, I'm talking about things that happen involuntarily. Right? If you're having a good time, and even if you're trying to hide it, you're generally going to have this twitching upward motion in the lower eyelids. You can't help it. You can't control it. That's a beautiful thing about certain expressions like happiness, is that there's that slight flattening of a person's lower eyelids shows that they're having a good time, whether they want you to know it or not. Okay? So she's sort of showing it there, but there's another involuntary action that happens in which she might contract her upper lip a little bit. And you go from this to this, right? So when that happens, you start to see the person's gums of their upper teeth, right? If you ever see the person's gums of their upper teeth, that's a pretty good indication that they're having a really good time, even if they don't want you to know it. Look for those upper gums, okay? So as opposed to this kind of smile, which is what Jennifer Connelly is showing here, and this is a forced smile, right? This is like a politician kind of smile. I call it the wedding picture. It's what you do, and it's like, take the picture already, please. You know, like that, right? So there's a certain like additional contracting. Can we go to computer number 2 for 1 second, please? I'm going to make this space as quickly as possible. I'm going to make this space usable. Okay, good. Going to load to make her jaw. And the rest of her lower face go to 0. This, now bring her jaw up, and hopefully she'll be more or less neutral faced person. So good, neutral expression. Let me take out this part up here so that she's got a nice flat upper face. She's glaring a little bit, so I'll take the eyelids down a little bit. I'll just give her a nice, semi-relaxed look like that. Now I'm going to make her smile. Okay, so like I saw before, a little bit of lock of that zygomatic neck muscle. So far, so good. Let's bring down her lower teeth. Her lower lip. So she's showing those lower teeth. And as I was saying before, when you see those the front lower teeth, pretty good indication the person's having a good time. Now let's add a little bit of that upper lip going up, thing that I was showing before, so that now you can see up. She's smiling, and that's maybe a little bit too much smile there. So I'll bring that down from 9 down to 8. So that's fine. Nice, reasonable amount of smile there. And that contraction I was talking about in the lower eyelids, I'm going to do that right here. Bring these up just a little bit like that. So hopefully there's a little bit more. It's a little bit asymmetrical there, but I think you get the idea. A little bit more of a genuineness to her overall smile. Okay? So, but there's that muscle I was telling you about that is a muscle of pain, a muscle of grimacing, the posterior muscle. I'm going to bring that. When I do that, that's what turns her smile into this kind of wedding picture grin. When you see somebody and there's like too much stress on their lower lip, you probably are looking at a person who would really like to just go into a room and be alone for a couple of seconds because this being social thing is just a little bit too much. It's overcompensation. When you use that really nice to see you thing, you're overcompensating your look of happiness, and it shows. Okay, back to computer number 1, please, David. Thank you. All right. So yeah, different shades of smiling. Okay, I'm showing a bunch of them because they're more than any other expression. The expression of pleasure and joy has incredible myriad combinations that it's really helpful to know about in terms of the machinery of the face, the anatomy of the face. Now this is where I'm going to, it's 8:02 right now. I could stop in 5 minutes, or I could go for another like 10 to 15. How are you guys doing with time? All right, I'm not getting the sense that anyone has to go. Yeah, okay, so, all right, I'm going to try to wrap this up in about 10 to 15 minutes, and then time for questions and answers. If you're not going anywhere, neither am I. Okay, you've got to be somewhere now. That's the thing. All right, so to talk to you about expression. Now, here's the thing that just kind of loaded for me, and something that I could spend a lot of time talking about and I won't, which is that I research at the University of Toronto right now. I am an artist in residence with the Department of Computer Science at the University of Toronto. I work with a team of 4 people on animation, character animation, in particular facial animation. My particular specialty right now is human speech. I learned a lot, a ton, about the nuances of human speech. And we have, as a result, spun off a company and we've developed a product called Giotto, which is for use with character animators, and I'll get to that in a second, but just to say, as a preamble to that, that those different combinations of muscles that are used for expression are also used for speech, for different what are called phonemes. Okay, phoneme is a unit, like an atom of speech. A, E, O, U, are all vowel phonemes. S, N, Ba are all consonant phonemes. Okay? So what I'm showing you here, for example, is a short A sound. Actually, very few languages have that other than English, like when you say cat. Okay? So it's like an ah sound, but you do a couple of extra things with your face. With ah, you just pretty much open up your jaw. Ah. But with ah, you not only open your jaw, but you use that same grimacing muscle, the pain muscle, that muscle. Okay? So if I add that, I'm doing that on my own face now. Ah, ah. Okay? You use a little bit of lip stretching. You actually also use a little bit of smiling when you pronounce that short A as in cat, as opposed to a neutral A, as in like father. Okay? So yeah, that's ah. So here's oo, as in who. And yeah, this would be using that kissing muscle that I mentioned before, the excessive muscle, to move into a very tight sphere. Okay, moving on to SH, ja, cha, and sha. Okay, this involves a muscle called the lip funneling muscle. Brings your upper lip up and your lower lip down, and it shows your teeth. Okay, so you do that along with pushing your jaw forward. These combinations of things allow you to say a phoneme like sh or ja or sha. Okay, so this is where we get into something that's a little bit loaded for me, and it involves this concept right here. Why is it? I've always wondered over the years. When I go to animation festivals, when I see films, whether they're in the short program or in the student program, I will see entire blocks of films in which the characters do not speak. And it's like, there's a certain style, and this is what I wonder, this is why I'm going to open it up here a little bit, and ask those who are students in animations or recently professionals in animation, maybe hear from you guys, why so few animated characters actually speak. Like there's powerful gestural stuff, gesture, right? Or they'll use their eyes, or they'll respond, they'll show all the expressions that a character can show, but they're so weirdly mute in a huge body of animated short films. Is that a stylistic thing? Is that a logistical thing to keep the deadline reasonable, or what? Part of me is, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Probably it is still not Q&A, but...
Yeah, no, that's where I'm going to help you. Sorry?
I have one of answers.
Okay, please, yeah.
So here in Czech Republic it is because we are speaking Czech. And if you make films for international festivals, but it was also in the history, it is always difficult to have the subtitles.
I know that.
And also,
believe me, I know, I understand.
Also, we felt our language is minor, and it's we all are thinking English often because of
To je prostě problém. To není náš problém, ale
international animation scene, but it is sometimes strange to make Czech film in English.
I love, even though I don't speak a word of Czech, and I'm sorry about that. There's something about Slavic languages that I love. One of them is that the pronunciation of shut. Actually, I think there's two, right? So either shut or shut. Is that correct? That's Russian. That's Russian. That's not Czech. I've heard two different times. I've heard that distinction here. Yeah.
But also we felt historically that when you make animation without words, it is more difficult and it is bigger challenge. But of course, I absolutely understand that if you are using words, then you can speak about more subtle things, about different emotions, about you can a little bit deeper.
I mean, my feeling is that, like, first of all, there are a lot of English language films that the characters are also muted. There's one from Canada is actually quite powerful. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Dolls Don't Cry, where there's absolutely almost no sound at all in the film. And yet, I'm strongly guessing that to make those characters talk, because their stop motion puppets would have been an incredibly higher level of technical, like the character would have to have been technically way more, facially animatable than they were. So it's, definitely, as far as stop motion puppet animation, it's a different level of difficulty to make a character talk. But even in computer animated films and in hand-drawn animated films, there's a whole body of films in English and in Czech or other languages where the characters don't talk. And there's a certain sense that I'm missing that I get from that. That a normal human being would be saying stuff. And it might not be much, it might not be subtle, complex stuff. It might just be something like, help me. Or some 2 syllables right there, but still speech. And there comes out of that speech something that is powerful because we humans talk, right? So it comes down to this. This is a doctored cover that I found a week ago when I was preparing this class. This is, of course, Richard Williams' book cover, animator survival kit, and somebody, I guess, Harry Partridge, put an absolute truth here. Lip syncing sucks. It's hard, it's tedious, it's totally tedious, right? If you're an animator, you want to make your character express and stuff. Speech is very mechanical. There's a very mechanical and not emotional or not very expressive element to it, right? So it sucks, okay? This is where wrapping up here, this is where I do my research. I'm talking slightly about my research here. It's a thing called jaw and lip integration. This is a thing that we developed. It's a product that does automatic procedural lip sync with characters, and the software that we've developed is really, really good at this. Okay? Because it uses artificial intelligence, deep learning, uses a neural network model. It's called K-A-L-D-I. And from that model, from that toolkit, we're able to develop language models, and we're now working on a way of just being able to predict the position that the human face would take based only on a voice and actor performance. So it's not motion capture. We're not taking anything visual. We're taking only the qualities of the person speaking. Like if you hear a person being happy and cheerful, their voice is generally going to be about 2 semitones higher than their normal pitched voice, and there's going to be a lot of a sing-songy effect. There's going to be pitch variation with that, right? That's a happy voice. As opposed to a sad voice in which your voice goes down a couple of semitones, and you get a very low dynamic range, more monotonous kind of speech, and your voice, your larynx is constricted out of that sense of sadness. Okay, so if you glean these qualities from a human voice, you can procedurally make a person talk with that stuff. And this is what gets back to, and I'm opening this up to a discussion here, this is what gets back to that clip that I was showing before of Miyazaki. Okay? Because that's the exact same thing. What we're doing here here is procedural animation in the same sense that these guys are offering procedural animation to Master Miyazaki, and you saw Miyazaki's response of being under disgust, right? We're doing sort of the same thing here. We're offering a deep learning approach to take care of some aspect of character animation. And I'm justifying it here by, unlike doing zombies that feel no pain, and that you should be aware, if you're animating a character, you should be aware of a sense of pain. Okay? You need to have that sense of your soul in order to be able to keyframe properly. Lip sync sucks. Lip sync is a mechanical, emotion-free thing that we do with our lip and mouth muscles. And we have developed software that takes care of that, and I like to think that this is an aid, and I think a pretty powerful aid to animators, computer animators, and that now it frees those animators up to do the fun, expressive stuff that otherwise they would have been spending days or weeks doing lip sync stuff with. So this is jaw, okay? Jaw and lip integration is a procedural method to create realistic speech in CG characters. This is, you know, basically like a sheet that shows phonemes, okay? Our approach is different than that because, like here, this is a person saying all, the phoneme all, in each of 5 different ways, okay? And what's happening there is that, it's getting a little complex here, but that when we speak with a range of speaking styles. Sometimes, I'll show you for example, sometimes we just do this, and I'm talking clearly, I think you can hear me pretty clearly, but right now I'm not using my facial muscles at all. All the phonemes, even like ooh, I'm doing just with my tongue, my diaphragm, and my teeth, okay? As opposed to this, when I'm talking like this, and I'm trying to enunciate something very, very clearly to you, now I'm not using my jaw or my tongue at all. I'm using only my facial muscles, okay? So there's a spectrum. When you're talking conversation, we're somewhere in between those two extremes. One extreme being just using your jaw only, like that, and sometimes just using your facial muscles only. So this is kind of a breakthrough that we've kind of come across here, and that you can program speaking style into a person's face when they're talking, and you can glean from a person like an audio signal. Like when I'm talking like this, you hear a lot of high frequency hisses when I make S's and SHs and stuff, because I'm showing teeth, right? When I show teeth, there's high frequency white noise that goes along with it. If I'm mumbling with this, you're not getting that high frequency stuff. So if you're able to glean that frequency, to do a lot of frequency analysis on a person's speech, you can predict to a really high degree what the speaking style, what the shape is on a person's lips. So yeah, this is what hopefully shows it here. I think it shows it here. No, I'm just going to go past it here. Because Patrice, let's see if I can at least show this one here. So this is a guy saying Jack and Jill. Stop playing movies. Okay.
Jack and Jill went up the hill. 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 Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water.
Okay, so what you're saying, if you're computer animators, you'll be familiar with the thing up there, that's a graph editor. And what that graph editor is showing is that the animation curves for all those phonemes are the same, they're identical for all 5 of these performances. Okay? The one thing that's changing is that jaw lip style. You see this little square, and that combination between jaw and lip is what's showing the difference between those speaking styles, whether the person's mumbling, as in towards the left, or that person is yelling, as in towards the right. So totally different performances on the face, even though the animation curves are the same. So continue here.
Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after.
Totally different looks on the lower face there. So what the difference is, that those are the waveforms there, is that in those waveforms you get those high frequency signals, or you get the pitch variation in those the tone of the vocal performance, and you're able to tell from that how much lip and how much jaw action should be happening on that person's face, and that's something we're really excited about because the results of this have been pretty.
My mom never knows.
So I'm going to start this over again. Probably just gave it away. I'm going to do it again here because I'm going to play. That's a friend of my wife, and she's a great actor in Toronto, Chrise Landreth. So what you see here is her providing the vocal performance, and you're going to see 3 different versions of Valley Girl being animated. One of these performances is hand animated by keyframing. One of them is motion capture, where we use face wear and face shift in order to do motion capture of Patrice. And one of them is using this artificial intelligence-driven lip syncing. So I'm going to play this through, and I'm going to ask you to raise one finger if you think it's the one on the left that's automatically animated. 2 fingers if you think the middle one is automatically animated. And 3 fingers if you think the one on the right is. That is using just predicted procedural automatic.
My mom never died. I even went back east a couple of weeks before she died just to get her to hug me. And I sat there for like 3 days, and it was very frustrating watching her second guess the answers on Jeopardy while she dumped her tea biscuits into her tea. And after about 3 days, I couldn't take it. I got up, I walked over, and I hugged her.
Okay, so which is the one that was done automatically? See 1, see a couple of 2s, 1, I see 3 there, 3. Okay, so what I'm seeing, just to summarize here, I'm seeing about an equal number of 1s, 2s, and 3s. Okay, so that's kind of like, statistically, that would be a neutral sample, which means that you guys have no idea. So yeah, it's the one on the right. So yeah, we're able to get pretty close to how human beings actually speak. It is only on the audio signal of the person's voice and a text transcript of what the person's saying. You have this cool procedure. It involves, as I said before, it's a neural network driven, it's called forced alignment. And then for forced alignment, we're able to glean the speaking style, and then we do complex stuff that, if you know animation, you know this term called co-articulation, which is, like, for example, when you say feed as opposed to saying food, this one, your F, looks totally different between those two, based on the fact that that F is co-articulated with a vowel, either E, feed, or E, food. So you have to know that stuff when you're doing animation, and whoa, we do this automatically right here. So yes, getting into that, slippery slope of the dark side of the Uncanny Valley, but I'd like to think that we're still staying on the bright side of it because we're making it easier for animators to do really, really human kind of things, like basic human speech. And we free up you guys to do the fun stuff that makes the character really expressive. So that's, in a nutshell, my take on the Uncanny Valley, how to be realistic, and be in that Uncanny Valley sometimes, and yet not freak people out in the process. Stay human, stay aware, observe people's faces, know what it's like to really be a human being on a person's face, and you'll be a great animator. So, yeah, there we go, done. Thank you.
Does the system works only with English?
It works currently now with 10 languages. English was the first one we developed, but yeah, 9 other languages.
Which ones?
Sorry?
Which ones?
Polish, French, Russian, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese as opposed to European Portuguese, Spanish, Mandarin based on simplified Chinese. I mentioned Russian, Korean, just the Korean going right now. Did I say Polish? No. So yeah, actually I could look at my list, but I mentioned French, Spanish. Believe me, there are 2 or 3 other languages in there that I can't think of right now.
Yeah. Thanks for talking. I'm just wondering, like, this is more towards like like you can use the code. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, this is So I can imagine like this is good for games, for instance, like quite a lot of work and easy, but like when you want to make I don't know, like any movie, so there's like a certain artistic freedom, you know, to express yourself, and I think like when you're playing with this, it's like some kind of like signs and symbols which you can alter, and then you give like different expressions which you can't get really from the actors, and I think like this could be powerful as well. You know,
like just facial animation in general, or automatic stuff like this.
I mean in general.
Yeah.
I was just like, I have a feeling like this is more towards like getting, you know, like Pygmalion effect, you know, like making something to seem like it's actually alive and all these things.
Yeah.
So like, do you like, is this like your topic?
Sort of. I mean, like, this is the thing. I mean, actually, it's some basic stuff that, I mean, it's not, I would hope that it's not just my topic, and it isn't. That people who do like facial animation will know the anatomy of the face. They will know those different action units. A face that is rigged, a person who rigs a face is generally going to rig it with this style that I mentioned, facts, this convention, where, as I was showing on my rig here, that there are distinct real action units that happen on a real face that you mimic on a CG face. And of course, you want to be able to add stuff to that humans may not do, but cartoon characters would be able to do. But you want to have this stuff at the top. I was happy when I was at DreamWorks, because that one of the cool things I would say is that I helped to re-rig Shrek. Because when I came there, they had 400 different controls for the lower part of the face alone that Shrek could do. And the problem was that they were spending a long time figuring out which ones they should use for basic stuff. Like, of course, Shrek can do stuff that human beings can't do, but you want to be able to make it easy for an animator to make Shrek do basic things that humans actually do. So we went through all those 400 different, controls, and we prioritized and mixed together the ones that correspond to facts, these things I was showing you here. And when I left, they had a fax rig, and they did, as a result of that, the Indian studio did Shrek 4, which was just, they were in production, and when Jason came to work with them. So yeah, that. Realism, but yeah, you can do stuff beyond realism. Just get the realistic stuff right and grow beyond it.
Yeah, and another question, like, how it is for you, like, to observing people, you know, like having a conversation, like, you're looking all the time at this, like, do you even have a normal conversation?
Most of the time I'm not, like, obsessing, or, you're using your lower auricularis oculi muscles right now. But yeah, sometimes I do. It's like, it's kind of a game, it's like, and people fall into this, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like you become, this weird, obsessed dude. It's just like wondering, Yeah. But no, it's actually kind of a cool thing, because when you see this stuff, you really can tell if a person is, like, for example, happy to see you, or maybe just a little bit anxious about it, or that, you can tell if a person is wanting to keep going with working on something, or whether they need a lunch break, Like, the body language is everything. A lot of that body language is in the face, so yeah, it's kind of turns you into a weird geek in a way, but on the other hand, you become more responsive, more aware of people. So, yeah.
I actually have two questions. The first is that you work with the Uncanny Valley. Do you want to stay there? Not to reach the level of perfection, but cause strangeness in the one that sees your work?
I mean, why would I want to go to perfection? I mean, when I can just pick up a camera and do that, there was, I'd say, like, the films that were coming out, like Final Fantasy, for example, and Polar Express, there was a real push at that time, it was like 15, 20 years ago, to try to do that, because I would just make perfection and make this thing look like it's reality. And I think people are finding out pretty quickly that why really do that. you are inviting people to be creeped out by your stuff because you are going to fall into the uncanny valley if you get even the slightest thing wrong. But on the other hand, it's like there's so much more fun stuff out there.
But that's the point. Do you want to cause creepiness in the people to go to the uncanny valley to make people feel comfortable?
Well, I mean, okay, like sometimes there's a reason to go into the uncanny valley, and it's not just in animation. Like you think of artists like I don't know if you're familiar with like a painter named Chucka Close or a sculptor named Duane Hanson. There was a movement in art and sculpture in about like the early 1970s that was doing uncanny valley stuff. It was called Photorealism. That was the name of the style, and that went into the single hyperrealism. And that's what Chucka Close and Duane Hanson do. And it's like where the point of the art is to be as close to creeping people out as possible with ultra-realistic, where every wrinkle and every hair follicle and liver spot and strand of hair is perfect, And in the case of Chucka Close, like he was going somewhere with that, which was interesting because he was taking reality and he was causing, like he would play with that and play with the geometry of that photorealism and make you kind of question the three-dimensional space of a person's head. Like he did this portrait of Philip Glass, the composer, that is just like he does a series of them, and just one of them is like totally incredibly photorealistic, and then he starts breaking it down, doing a George Seurat kind of pixelation on it, and you start to see that the way that we look at, the way that we visually process stuff has a certain primordial thing. And that's a thing that Chucka Close is trying to do. So there's a reason, there's a point to doing the photorealism there. So I did this film of Subconscious Past that will be screened tomorrow that deliberately in the Uncanny Valley, the characters are all kind of stilty, creepy a little bit. But it's for a reason, because we're in the subconscious mind of the protagonist, literally inside his head, and there's something about our subconscious that is uncanny valley.
It's like the monsters, like for example, The Ring. Tamara is a monster because of the way she moves. There's no real like in The Ring. The horror.
The horror will be Ring, right?
Ring, exactly. Yeah. She moves weird, twitching.
Right.
So that's horror.
Yeah.
Something that is not human. Okay, and the other thing was like, there's really, like people behave, they show their emotions differently in different cultures.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? Like in real life, you see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In China and Taiwan, smiling broadly and showing your teeth is a sign of high anxiety. In Japan, we would never do that because showing teeth in Japan is a very different thing. For example, like you see that in speech as well. When we, I think when people in Europe pronounce the letter F, like meaning after fat, you show your upper teeth. In Japan, you do not pronounce F that way. You pronounce F as in blowing on the feather, like that. It's a different thing because there is and you see this in all like Japanese phonemes, is that there's an avoidance of showing teeth at all costs. Without exception, their vowel phonemes do not show their teeth. Whereas here, E would do that, for example. So in smiling, you have a different loaded kind of thing when a person does that. When I see that in a person, like I was working with a whole group of engineers from Taiwan, and I saw that a lot. And then what would characterize that was that wedding picture grin. You use this and smile like this, and then I knew something's not right. But the basic smile, when you're not doing that, when you're laughing, when you are really shouting or showing fear, that is universal. This is the thing that Paul gets a lot of credit for as a researcher. He was the one who showed through incredible empirical evidence that those 6 emotions, anger, sad, happiness, disgust, fear, surprise, all of those are similar from one culture to another. There may be shades of differences, but when you're spontaneously happy, you're going to smile in a more consistent way, whatever. Yeah.
Any other question?
Yeah, speaking in such I think that the program which you created is a super great thing, which I can imagine that it can work very well in games and so on. But I can also imagine that it's like the weapon which works great in the hands of people like you, but some other people can make a pretty kitschy stuff. And when I'm thinking about your films, you are always having these detailed, realistic things, but because of you as a director, because of your thinking, because of your script and your point of view, it is never kitsch, because you are very often patronizing it. But imagine if I imagine other people having this tool that you can make anything with the facial expressions, and they wouldn't have these this point of view, what you have, it can be like a dangerous tool to make a kitschy film.
Yeah. That is such a deadly kitsch. No, I mean, like, I'll say again that a huge thing that I emphasize in my class is just don't do something on face just because you can. And yeah, you have all these controls and you might just make faces do all sorts of weird, over-the-top things. And this is where, maybe cartoon animators may bristle at the first part of my class, but I think by those who do like really cartoon kind of style of animation, I think kind of understand by the time I get to the end, and of course, where I'm going with this. I start the animation part with nothing. Like I say, I have an exercise where making eye contact and don't do anything. And try not to be self-conscious about that. Just hang out. And people have, actually, it's a very difficult exercise for people to do. And it's similar with animating because you're self-conscious and you want to use all those controls, make the face and all these other kitschy things. And I try to emphasize that if you turn that smile up to just 1 out of 10, like I was doing with this, like showing the social smile, or just a slight curve over the lip. Again, keeping those controls, you go from 0 to 10, actually they go past 10 to like, spinal tap, they go to 11. Keep them down 1, 2, just slight stuff on the face, and you will get enormous expression. And that's what I try to get. To do it with the kitchen part, to get into the more deep, empathic stuff. Thank you for saying about the stuff that I try to do myself.
I have another. I was just wondering, you've been doing the process of developing the algorithms. You've been at the beginning of Maya, and you've seen the progress doing your own software as well. What do you think? Where do we be getting in the future? I mean, in the case of procedural animation, simulations, and all these things. What do you think? Where are we heading?
Yeah, I do have to say, but one part of where we're heading is exactly where the presenters to Miyazaki were saying. There is going to be that. There's going to be that sense of you're going to see instead of Siri Siri on your phone, you're going to see some woman, talking to you with uncanny, creepy facial expressions. What can I help you with today? That stuff. That's going to be part of it. It's going to be, you're going to see characters in games that I would like to think secondary characters and crowd characters only that animators never had to touch. But I do not think that, at least in my lifetime, I don't think that there's going to be a replacement of animators. I don't know if that's what you were asking.
What about the actors?
No, it's already happened. Peter Cushing in Star Wars, for example. Somebody was Tom Cito. I don't know if you know the name Tom Cito. He's a great animator, instructor, historian. States. That in a very joking way, why did Peter Cushing get a Best Actor nomination, even though he's been dead for 25 years? And Carrie Fisher, obviously. And if you saw Star Wars Rogue One, yeah, I mean, like half of the film Tron Legacy was Jeff Bridges as a 30-year-old, even starring, acting along with Jeff Bridges today, at 70, 2010. That was CG. You are seeing a lot of that, for better or worse, mostly character replacement. This is where you start to get into an ethical bunch of topics where they can keep you your own mind about that. Now you're getting to a point that people's actual identities have to be protected with something like a copyright. We're at that point now where I don't know if you ever been to the conference SIGGRAPH, the animation conference. One of the infamous papers from last year. It has SIGGRAPH as an academic conference with technical research papers. One of them was showing Barack Obama through about 5 to 10 minutes of actual footage, and it's Barack Obama's face. It's Barack Obama's voice, but it's his voice from an interview that he gave in 2008 transplanted onto his face from 2012. How did they do that? And they do that through this kind of deep learning approach in which they are predicting facial positions on the face and able to composite a different Barack Obama face onto what had been another Barack Obama face. And now you're getting to the point where people can screw with your identity, you can screw with your history, with a complete falsehood about what you did and who you talked to. And now you're getting to the point where, write books and artistic content. Your actual identity is going to need to be protected legally from this kind of stuff. And now you start getting into this weird legal shit, like patenting or copyrighting content, and the content is you. So that's kind of weird, scary stuff. But that's sort of where we are. I could keep going on with that, but I may be digressing from the question original.
The last question, please. Or no? So, thank you very much.
This was fun. It was a big pleasure.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. I would like to invite you also for tomorrow's screening of Chrise films. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. So you are welcome in the cinema.